Alright guys, welcome to the skeletal system. In this section, we're going to talk about bones. Why we have them, what they're for, how they are made, and how do they work. So normally I'd start at the cellular level, and then we'd work our way back up to the big system level. But for this topic, we're going to start big and go backwards. So the skeletal system includes all of the bones in the body, as well as the joints and cartilage that are in between the bones. They allow the bones to move without damaging each other. There are a few functions of the skeletal system. The easy one is that it gives us a framework to hold our body together. Without the skeleton, we'd just be a blob of tissue and organs on the floor, which is kind of gross. It also provides protection to some of our squishy organs, like how the heart and lungs are surrounded by ribs. Our skeletal system allows us to move with the help of our muscular system. And lastly, the skeletal system can act as like a bank for storing calcium, as well as a way to make new blood cells when we need them. Since I mentioned the muscular system, oftentimes people will join these two systems together, calling it the musculoskeletal system. That's fine, and moving forward in the course, after this week, we'll do the same thing. And it's because both systems work really closely together, and it's really hard for one to function without the other. Alright, so bones. There's 4 main types of bones, and they're categorized by shape. We've got long, short, flat, and irregular. Some textbooks will throw in a 5th type, the sesamoid or sesamoid bone, and that will be your patella. We'll just call those irregular bones, and we'll keep it at 4. So let's talk through this really quick. Long bones are mostly going to be found in the extremities. So like your humerus is the bone in your upper arm, and will be considered a long bone. Short bones are obviously shorter than long bones, and they will be more of a square or rounded shape. The bones in your wrist or feet, called carpals or tarsals, would be examples of short bones. Alright, so imagine you took a short or a long bone and then flattened it out, like by taking a rolling pin over it. That's what will be called a flat bone. So these guys are found in places like your skull, your ribs, your shoulder, called your scapula. And they're great at providing protection for organs or providing lots of surface area for muscles to attach, like in your shoulder blade. Last bone is the irregular bone. These bones really don't fit into any other category. They're just an odd shape. For example, your vertebrae. They're the bones in your back, and they will be irregularly shaped bones. So moving on from here, let's talk about what makes up a bone. Bones are made of calcium and are arranged in 2 different ways. We have compact bone, which is, as it sounds, solid sheets of calcium filled with bone cells, nerves, blood, and lymph vessels. The bone tissues are arranged in these circular layers, kind of like the layers of an onion, and they're all wrapped around this canal, called the Haversian or ostonic canal. These layers are called lamellae. The whole unit, that's the canal with the lamella surrounding it, is called an osteon or a Haversian unit. Then we have spongy bones, which are this matrix of bone tissues. If you've ever seen a sci-fi movie where they're like flying around inside the tunnels of asteroids, kind of looks like that. For those of you who aren't cool enough to be a Star Wars nerd like me, look at a dry sponge. Spongy bones kind of look like that. So the spongy bone is where we'll find bone marrow, which can be used to help create new blood cells. The empty spaces inside the spongy bone are called trabeculae. So let's take a look at the cross-section of a long bone. There's a lot of parts here, so working from the outside in, we have this outer film over the bone, and that's called the periosteum. It protects the bone and allows tendons and ligaments a way to attach and stay connected. We'll get more into those in the muscle section. The ends of the long bones are called the epiphysis and are made of layers of compact bones and then an inner layer of spongy bones. The middle part, or that body part, the long part of a bone, is called a diaphysis. And it has this hollow tube in the middle called the medullary cavity. The middle part of the bone is called the diaphysis, and it has this hollow tube in the middle called the medullary cavity, which is filled with bone marrow. The medullary cavity is lined with a thin epithelial membrane called the endosteum. So from the outside in, looking at the diaphysis, or the middle of a long bone, we have the periosteum, the compact bone, the spongy bone, the endosteum, and then that inside hole is the medullary cavity.